Okay, this is intermediate training day 2. I'll start sharing my screen. Okay, so the first 2 segments we're going to work on today are going to be related to calculations, which we started with yesterday. We kind of dived in to the deep end with case and let, my 2 most favorite functions. In the first section today, I'm going to be reviewing a lot more of the calculation functions that you guys should be familiar with. And then we're going to do an exercise. So I put on all of your layout an assignment that we'll work on separately and then come together and work on it. Related to what we looked at a little bit yesterday, but like a little bit of a new challenge. So hopefully that'll be difficult but doable for each of you. So the first thing I want to do is kind of review the different types of calculations that we have. So I'm going to go right into Data Viewer, where we can, which is the best place to do the calculation engine, and to the Watch tab. Tomorrow we're going to get into the Current tab because we're going to get into scripting. That's going to be exciting. And I'm just going to add one new one here. And then over on the right, we haven't really looked at these much yet because we've just been using a handful. We've used count and case and let, and we've used some operators. But let's take a review of the different types of functions that we have and kind of what they do. There's hundreds, and so we're not going to really go with a full inventory, but it's really good to know them by area so that you can kind of know what to look at. And with functions, you can either you can look at them by group, so you can say just show me the ones that are for one type, or you can look at all of them by name alphabetically, or all of them by type. And also you can search for them, and then also you can just start typing, and then it automatically searches. So there's really like 4 ways to get your functions, right? You can either browse them on the list, search for them here, get them by group, or type ahead over here. Okay, text. These are functions that operate on a text field. They can operate on other things, but mainly these are ones that operate on a text field that may or may not result in a text function. And a really good example of that is these first 2, char and code. So this actually tells you kind of right here what the thing is that it's getting on. Char, if you type in a number, like 1, 2, 3, that tells you that particular character number by its ID. So if you want a specific difficult to get to character, like a return or a bullet or an underscore or something like that, you can know its number and then you can find it out. Code is the inverse of it. Code you could put in some text like the uppercase Q character in quotes, and that tells you what number that is. The lowercase q is that. If I wanted like the char of a Pilcrow, the paragraph, that's 13. So for example, if I wanted to include that, and I didn't really want to do it by just typing it, grabbing it this way, which actually would be very convenient. Or maybe another way to do this would be like hard return. That's the hard return character, it's 32. Tab would be another one. Tab is hard because it's invisible. You have to kind of copy and paste it from another place. Let's just start with return. Okay, so if return is 32, so if I say char 32, that would stick a hard return character in wherever I want it to go. Okay, so some other functions that we get that operate on text. The most common ones that I use a lot are left, right, and middle. And these are in sets. So left, right, and middle. Left of some string. If I say I want the left 3 characters of that, that's going to just take the first 3 letters of whatever that string is. So if I say left like 7, that's going to include spaces and returns on any other type of character. So I'll put a longer string in here. This is a test with a hard return. Okay, so now I've got a long string in here. It's a 3-line string. I'll put this on the other line here. So I want to show you kind of some other parts of how the other things you can get that are connected to this function, right? So you've got left, and then you've got right. That does the exact opposite. It grabs it from the right edge and gives you backwards 7 characters. The middle function, that actually requires 2 parameters. So left and right, you just give one number to, and they give you the left characters. Middle has to have a start position. So middle says, I want 7 characters starting at position 2. Actually, I think it's the other way around. Yeah, starting at position 2, give me 7 characters. Or starting at position, 9, give me 7 characters. So that's how that works. And then you have left words. So let's go back to left. Take this to just left 9 characters and change this to left words. Now that's going to be the left 9 words. And you get left right words and middle words. They work exactly the same. So if I say the left 3 words. Okay, question. One that you might not know the answer to. What constitutes a word? How does FileMaker tell that like that's a word versus like a semicolon or a comma or something like that? Or a dash? What are the characters that tells the difference between a single word with a hyphen and like a space, or what are the characters that actually define what a word is? Who has guesses?
Well, spaces and dash.
Spaces and dash. So those clearly are, because we can see them not working that way. Let's see if I take this dash out. So the dash does definitely look like it's a different word, right? That counts as 3 words now with a dash. Because it's 1, 2, 3. If I take the dash out, it shows me the next word over, because that's 3 words. And if I replace that with a space, it's still 3 words. So space and dash basically are separators. So you're right about that. What about like semicolon? Actually, we already see that one because that's a semicolon right there. What about a colon? What's your guess there? If I put a colon in here, is that going to be a word separator or not?
I'd say no. If there's no space, maybe not.
A colon does count as a word separator.
Okay.
Does all punctuation work if it's within the quotes?
Yeah, I think so, if I understand your question. Yeah, anything that's in the string, anything that's in the quotes, the punctuation will be looked at. And sometimes you get, like in this case, actually, this just counts as, that's still 3 words. It's really hard to tell what is word 1 and what is word 2. Let's try left word 1 and see. Yeah, so in this case, the word this is everything before the colon. And then I actually have 3 punctuation marks in a row. I really know I want to know what the middle word is. Middle words 2, 1. So this is, it actually ignores all of the punctuation in between them, right? So if I say grab the first 2 words, it shows me the two words with the punctuation. But if I say just grab the first word or just grab the second word, it ignores all of this. So it can be interesting to work with these. So that's middle words. And then the last set of this 3 is values. So you get left values. And that works on a return separated list. So if you have a list of multiple things, like a column of numbers, for example, or in this case, we really have a column of 3 bits of text with returns on each line. Left values can be really useful. Oh yeah, let me try right values 1. That didn't seem to work. Let me get rid of this stuff. Yeah, so this is actually not working. And I'm not sure it's because I don't have characters. I don't have like returns in here properly. Yeah, that's actually it. So the hard return character wasn't counting, but the Pilcrow does actually count as a character to separate values. If you actually have data in a field, let's actually demonstrate this because I think it's worth doing. In this field, let's just replace this with a column of numbers. Okay, so I'm going to use the same function, but instead of looking at it against just text I'm typing in, I'm going to have it look at the field called contracted work. And that grabs the last line. So in this data, I don't actually have the Pilcrow character in there. I just have a hard return that I typed. And that's how FileMaker normally works. So if you've got like a list of values like this and you want like the left values or the right values, this can be really useful. And then middle values are the same kind of a thing. So like if you've got a list, this is just a function I find very useful. Okay, I can get bogged down in these because I can definitely nerd out. So text operates on some things like that. Exact is a way to compare 2 things together, and that's one of the very, very few that are case sensitive. Filter looks for some specific text in a long string. So for example, if I've got, let's monitor that, go to the next record. And if I use filter, and text to filter and filter text, that's not at all confusing, right? So text to filter is what field am I looking at, which is going to be contracted work. And if I'm looking for the word, say, work, I would put that here in quotes. And that basically says, do I have those letters? Actually, filter in this case is looking for letters. So it's looking for the letters W, O, R, and K. Filter values is looking for whole words. And not finding them. Did I spell it wrong? Filter values, contracted work. Let's try just. Oh, you know what? This is actually looking for the whole line. So it's looking for like standard work. That still didn't actually find it. So yeah, this is not working the way that I expect, which leads me to another thing that's a really useful thing to do, and that's help. So on a lot of these functions, especially the ones that you don't really use that often, and honestly, I don't use filter values very often. So I think I actually forgot like a little detail of how it works. If you go to the FileMaker built-in help system, this gives you the details of exactly what these functions do. and then some good examples of what they return when it came. Yeah, so this one, if you have a return separated list, it will shorten a list if it's got redundant things in it. That's the main function of that one. Okay, let's continue our tour. I don't want to get bogged down on any one of these. The get as functions convert data from one format to another. So for example, get as date is a really good example. If you have something in here like, I don't know if this will work or not, sept 7/2021, FileMaker cannot parse that until it has enough formatting. And it still can't. So I think get as date is actually looking for a little bit different, like maybe 9/7. So if you've got raw text, now that's odd because it's actually returning the exact same thing. But one of the useful purposes of this function is if you've got an invalid date, it will test it. So for example, 9/37 is not a valid date. And so it's going to return question mark, which means invalid. So this can be a good test to see if a date is actually real or not. Get as number works similarly. And so if you've got something like 0000123, get as number will just ignore all the leading zeros. So that's kind of a useful one for that. Then there's all these other ones, timestamp. Some more advanced ones like CSS, which converts stylized text to HTML code, which can be pretty useful. Length counts the length of how long text is. So this will tell me how many characters that is. It's 8 characters long. If I add 3 more, it will now be 11. So that's a good one to tell you like how, like if you've got a block of text and you want to see how long it is, like how many characters do I have in my contracted work field? That'll tell you it's 176 characters. Proper will change the case. So you've got another set of them. Uppercase, lowercase, and proper case will modify the text. So if I say lower and spell it correctly, and then grab my contracted work, that will put everything in lowercase. Upper will uppercase it, and proper will propercase it. Propercase is it's not very useful because you'd think you'd want to use it on something like a name field. And that might work if you have like a name like this. But if you have a name like I don't know, McDougall, it doesn't know what to do. It doesn't capitalize the D and it can't really know that. Or if you have an address like 123, Sycamore Drive. That one's actually kind of okay. But if you have like 123 Northeast Sycamore Drive, it's not going to work. It does. Northeast would definitely want to be capitalized N and E. So there are more advanced functions. I just kind of wanted to point out that proper looks like it's good, but it doesn't really work as smart as you wished it does. So that's kind of a little tour of the text functions. Text formatting is kind of another area. Now this one's good because what it can do is add and take away color and style, like bold and italic. It doesn't actually work in the data viewer. So if I add style, it doesn't actually show up here. But on a button bar, it would actually show on the layout in that style. The number functions have math. So we looked a little bit at random. Random is one of the very few functions that doesn't actually require any other, it doesn't require something in parentheses after it. Some other ones that are pretty useful here. Round we already saw. So So if we have a number like that and we want to round it off to 2 decimal places. Now this also works with ceiling and floor. Ceiling, floor, and round are all very similar, but subtly different. I don't think I want to go into them too much, but basically they're like one of them, round always goes like down. Ceiling and floor proceed towards or away from 0. So negative numbers and positive numbers work differently when you use ceiling and floor, but round works the same either way. And then the other thing with this is you can round to 0 decimal places, and you can also round to a negative number of decimal places, like -2. And that will round it off to the nearest 100 as opposed to the nearest 1 or 10 or so that can be a useful one to get something. I had a function I had to write a long time ago that I had to, the pricing was to the nearest $5. Like it was, he didn't want to have anything like $2.70 or even like $3. If he wanted to round off his part prices to the nearest $5. So I used a round function to round it off to the nearest 10. So I multiplied it by 2, or I think, yeah, divided it by 2 or multiplied, I can't remember now, rounded it off to the nearest 10 and then multiplied it back out. And that gave me to the nearest 5. Because there's not a round function to the nearest 5, but there is to the nearest 10. So that's how I did that. And it was, so that was a good kind of one of those combination function type things. Then you have a lot of other math ones like exponent, factorial, integer just cuts off whatever digits. So if you say integer, that basically just truncates whatever decimals there have. It just ignores it. So it doesn't round up or down, it just ignores them. Set precision is the more advanced one. FileMaker can calculate to 400 decimal places, but by default, it doesn't go that high. I think it's more like 80 or something. And so if you really need more precision, you can get it. For example, one of the other functions you have is pi. And it only shows you this many decimal places. But if you put pi inside of set precision, then it gives you 400 characters of pi. So that's kind of an easy way to see what that does. There's a set of functions that work together, date, time, and timestamp. You might remember that date, FileMaker stores dates as integers. So like even though you see a date field in your database, it's actually stored as a number, the number of days since 1/1 of the year 1. And it makes it really convenient when you're working with dates because you can just say, and this is going to be part of your assignment, you can say, you know, date, get today's date plus 30, for example. Let's take a look at the date functions. So let's say I want the day of the month of the current date. So I'll say day of get current date. And I'm jumping the gun a little bit because we haven't got to the get functions yet, but that's coming up in a minute. So today is September 21st. This just grabs from whatever the current day is, the day of the month. And then of course I can also use month and year. And it grabs the same thing. I can also say get current date plus 30, and that gives me a day 30 days from today. This is really smart because it understands leap year. So it's never going to break. So if you like want to calculate a date, calculate like when something's going to be due, you can just use simple math like this, and it's always just going to work, which is nice. Another one that can be kind of tricky, but as a function, I'll just drop in a little what do I call these? It's not really a breadcrumb. It's like a piece of candy in a training class, I think. Calculating birthdays is frequently tricky. So let's say that, let's say you want to calculate the age of someone, and the field that we're looking at, customer since, let's say that this contains a birth date, and this person's birth date was 4/7/1983. except we're going to type it correctly. Okay, I'll go back into Data Viewer and go to my current function. And I've got my field called customer stints. So that's that date. So if, one of the functions that I found really useful to do is I use get current date minus that date. So that's the number of days that have occurred between that day in 1983 and today. And then I divide that by 365. Except I have to put this in parentheses. And that tells me how many years have happened between that date and today. Except it's not quite right. So first of all, I want to do a couple of other things here. I want to round it off to the nearest 0. And secondly, this doesn't take into consideration leap year. So let's say this person's birthday was actually like tomorrow, right? 9/21. And let's make the math a little bit simpler. So this is one of those combined functions again. There's to get leap year, a really simple tweak you do is you just divide by 365.25 because there's 365 and a quarter days in a year, give or take. And so this is not 100% accurate, but it's very, very close to always having the right birthday. It's only ever going to be off by 1 day when you're calculating an actual birthday. And the other functions to calculate the exact perfect birthday are much longer and more complex. Yeah, so basically calculate the number of days, divide by 365.25, round it off, and then you get the info. Okay. So as I was saying, date, time, and timestamp all kind of work together. So the date function grabs information from a date field. The time function grabs time from either a time field or a date field. And the timestamp is really just one thing. And it grabs, it concatenates together the date and time, which FileMaker stores as the number of seconds since 1/1 of the year 1. And a time field stores a number of seconds since midnight today. So those are the 3 ways that it stores it invisibly under the hood. Container is more of an advanced one. This operates on like a picture field, a movie or something like that. Because FileMaker can store binary data. These are all more advanced crypto things. There are a couple of, one really useful one here though is get container attribute. And so I will pause and show that right now. Do we actually have a photo field in here? I don't think we do. I'm going to add one. Oh, I think it might, is it in work order? Supporting table, work order. I don't have it. I'm going to add pick in here. One of our other lessons coming up is we're going to talk more about data modeling and more about field types. And so this is a little preview of that. I'm going to add a container field. And then I think I actually have some data. I can import a folder of pictures from a location. Not sure where they are advanced. None of those have anything in them. Well, I'm not sure where they are. Pictures, I probably have nothing in there. Let me look another way. Oh, yeah, those are other files that I don't really need. User training doesn't have it. And intermediate doesn't have it either. I'm not going to look around too much. Let's see, what can I grab in here? I don't know that I actually have any photos on this computer. Need to do a little bit better planning on this one, I think. Let's see, go back into FileMaker. Usually in the training folder, and I think you guys actually have them, there's a folder of pictures. That might not work. Let's not open that one. Not in that. But yeah, I'm not seeing that, so I must have just moved it out somewhere. So I'm not really sure what I have in here. Insert picture. Oh, here we go. There's a logo. Good enough. Oh yeah, these are actually some pictures in here. It's in a shared folder. So this is a photo that I just I did find one. And the get container attribute function is a really good one anytime you work with any kind of a photo. So get container attribute, kind of a long function. And then you would grab the name of the field you're trying to get data against. And the easiest one to show is all. Now this is a little weird because in this particular case, it doesn't take a number. It actually contains a string that you have to specifically put it in quotes. And so you really kind of have to look at the documentation on certain FileMaker functions to know kind of exactly what to get. So one of the other examples of this one is the text style formatting one where you bold or italicize text. So in this case, this is what it gives you, and I find this really useful. It tells you a bunch of information about the file that you have in your database. Is it internal or external? So internal size, external size. How big is it? What's the DPI? And you can get quite a bit of metadata about the image. For example, what camera took the picture? What exact location on Earth was it taken? If that's actually embedded in the image, when was it created? So this can be really useful. And you can also grab any bit of data out of this. So in other words, you don't have to just use all, you can grab width. And that tells you just the width of the image. So this is a really useful, all is a good one because it tells you all the things you actually can get. If you have a movie, picture, PDF file, Excel spreadsheet, they all have different sets of metadata that FileMaker invisibly knows. And so that can be really useful. Okay, so that's all. That's the only one I really wanted to show in the container area. Japanese, FileMaker from a long time ago has a bunch of specific functions for Japanese languages. We're not going to cover any of those. JSON is part of the advanced class, and it's a hugely important part of FileMaker. And we might play with it a little bit in this class, depending if you guys really want to get that far, but it won't be today. And this is a really useful way to pass multiple information around as you're writing scripts and doing different parts of it. For example, if you're calling a script and you want to send a bunch of data to the script to process, JSON is a very effective way to do that. It's just a way to structure text, essentially. Aggregate is one we will be looking at in your assignment. We've already looked at count, which just counts the number of related records. But then there's a couple of other obvious ones that also go with that one. Sum adds up values. Max and min look at the minimum and maximum of a value. Let's take a quick look at examples of these. I'm going to switch back to my let's see, to my data entry screen. And I have some notes. I'll put a couple of more notes in here. I'm going to put 3 notes in here. One of them will be dated like 1/1 of this year. Oh, I can't edit it, huh? Nope. That's because this field is a creation timestamp, and I really want the actual. I want an editable date of the note. So I'm going to change that note field. I'm just going to make a field called date. That's the one I want to show because I want to be able to demonstrate this feature. And I'll just change this to say, show me, what did I just do? Did I not make a date field? I guess I didn't. There it is. Yeah, just took a second to show up. So following my own best practice, MN 9/21, 2021. So sometimes you have a future date field and sometimes it's a past. Like when you create it, you might be making a note that's a follow-up to something you want to do next week or whatever. And so that's what I frequently use in a table that does this. Okay. There must be more than one notes table because I'm not actually seeing the field. No, something else is going on. The date's not there, is it? Am I crazy? You guys saw it, right?
Yep.
So sometimes stuff like this happens. Oh, looks like I copied and pasted some stuff accidentally. Yikes. All kinds of stuff happen here. Oh yeah, my notes looks like it went to some other place. So yeah, I've got multiple things going on here. Okay, let me fix them. So sometimes when this happens, I'll just quit FileMaker and then relaunch it. It's rare, but it does sometimes happen that it just glitches. And part of training is to say, hey, when this weird thing happens, try this. It's very rare for FileMaker to ever lose anything. So let's see, I think I just hit some extra keys I didn't mean to. I opened up the script workspace because I hit the Control-Shift-S keyboard shortcut. So I'm going to, instead of Control-Shift-D, 1 character over. So here's my field again. I'm going to go to the note table. Date is really not there. Note date. I'm going to make it a date field. Create. Okay. I'm going to go back and see if it's still there. It is. Then I somehow glitched out of my portal, so I'm just going to remake that portal. That was actually just me making a keyword error. And I'll show data from notes. And then I want to see note date. Great, it's there. Who and what the text is. In our beginner class, we very, very briefly wrote a little script that showed creating a record, I think I just flew through it really fast if I remember, using a triggered field. And so we're going to get to more of that in scripting tomorrow. So on my notes tab, I've got a couple of records. So if I say this is the third one, this should actually use that script and create a new note record. Now, what it's not doing yet is it's not setting the date, and that's OK. I'm going to make this one 1-1. If I just type in a 1/1, that is a date that does not contain a year. Will that work or not work?
I think it's gonna set the current date, the current year.
It does. And that sometimes is not what you want. It usually bites you in December and January. So like in January, you're putting in some data. You're used to just typing month and day. And it's also very regional. So if you're in Canada, you type in a day/month. So it takes the date format from wherever your normal country settings. And so like on January 2nd, you want to put in a date of something that happened on December 28th. And so you type in 12/28, it's going to assume it's this year. And so those are things, that's the only thing I'd say to watch out for there. This one I'll say 7/1. And this one I'll say 9/1. Are these going to sort? Guesses?
I don't think so.
Not unless I tell them to. And we'll get to that later. OK, what I wanted to show is this. So I'll go back to, not to get too far out of my area. We're on our date functions. Sorry, no, aggregate functions. And we already looked at some, like you'll remember count. So if I say count of the notes, and I want to count the ones that have a date, that tells me there's 3. But you also can get min, which will get the minimum date of a list of dates in a related table. Really useful. Max obviously does max. And so those 3 work really well together. There's another one that's kind of interesting too, and that is list. So list will actually convert portal data into a return separated list of dates. And then once you have a list, you can use other functions like middle values, left values, etc., or other ways to parse this data out if what you want is a list of the data. This can be a little bit tricky, but the list function is a really useful one. Of course, in a set of dates, average is not going to be very good, right? So if I try average of date, I actually don't even know what that's going to do. Like, what's the average date? It actually just, it doesn't work. But average is really useful on a list of numbers, as is sum. So you can't sum dates because it doesn't give you anything useful. But if you have like, yeah, these are definitely useful in like a list of invoices or a list of numbers of some kind. Okay, that's it for aggregate functions. Repeating ones, these are kind of left over from old versions of FileMaker. Let's ignore them. FileMaker used to have a thing called repeating fields, where one field could store multiple values, but it's much better to use a portal and a related table for that instead. Actually, financial is good for like net present value and things like that. We're going to skip those for now, but those are useful for if you were in the real estate world. Trigonometric, sine, cosine, tangent, etc. Logical functions, I use all these frequently. So it actually groups case and let in here. And execute SQL is in here. And then there's some other really basic ones too. Is empty is very useful. Is valid is less useful. We looked at is empty a little bit. That does a test to see if a field has a value or not, which is nice. Other ones you might want to research later. Get nth record. This will grab, like, if you've got multiple related records and you want like the 6th one, or you want the 6th one if the company has no state, something like that. That can be a really useful thing. Let's see. Evaluate is an advanced one. This actually allows you to store calculation code in a field and then evaluate it. So it's kind of a meta function. But that can be useful because once in a while you actually want to store a calculation in your database in a field for some more advanced type functions. Let and case we've already looked at. Self is you'd think would be nice, but it actually just looks like at the field you're actually currently in. So self is actually I would say this, it's tricky. It doesn't always do what you think it's going to do. So use self with caution. I don't think it's going to do anything here, but like in a layout, if you put self on a function, it would identify what that thing is. It knows a little bit about itself as it's on your layout. So for an advanced developer who really thinks about that, it can be good. The most advanced of all of these is while, which we're not going to talk about, but just so you can see kind of where the end of the line is. This doesn't look that involved, but while is a function that allows you to recursively call itself. So you can create a loop function that while a certain condition is true, it keeps calculating and it can refer to itself as it goes. So FileMaker has a thing called custom functions, which we're not going to talk about in this class, but they're in the advanced menu where you can create your own functions to do things. There's also a site that you can go copy and paste custom functions to do different things. Like, for example, I talked about a way to calculate a birthday correctly, to know exactly how someone's age is. There are many custom functions that do that. And so if there's something specific that you're trying to do in your world, you can go to briandunning.com and there's a FileMaker custom function library. He's got thousands of them, I think. Then you can just copy and paste them into your database and they generally are great. While is like that, except it does not require a custom function. You can just write it in code. So that's it for logical. Miscellaneous has, what's in here? Oh, yeah, so FileMaker has machine learning now. And so there's models and some other kind of random things in here, like you can grab the name of the layout you're on, the name of the field you're in. These are sometimes useful. Get is a really important area. We've looked at them as kind of we've gone, but the get functions know a lot of things about what's going on. Like, for example, what's my current account name, right? You can use something like this to tell you the name of the account you're logged in as, or your privilege set, or whether the file is hosted, or where your printer is, or if you're on an iPad, where you are in the world, latitude and longitude. Are you on a Mac, PC, or an iPhone? So there's a ton of things like that that are in here. What version of FileMaker am I using? What is today's date? So you can kind of look through these. There's a large number of them, as we can see. Yeah, how big is the screen that I'm on? What's the ID of the current record I'm looking at? So there's some things like that that are really useful, mostly in scripting. Get UUID is a pretty common one we've already looked at a little bit for a primary key. That just grabs it grabs a large number as a unique key using for a record ID. So that's an overview of get. When we're done with this, we're going to take a short break and then we're going to come to our assignment. Okay, design functions. So these are very similar to the get functions, but they all get information about the structure of like the layout that you're on. For example, get database names or just database names. This tells me the names of the database files that are currently open. Field names will tell me the name of the field in the current file name on the current layout. So this is one of those stacked functions. So this goes into the structure of the database and says, what are the names of the field on this layout that I'm on right now? Which is pretty cool, right? I know you guys are all saying yes, but you're all on mute. And so there's other ones like that. table names, script IDs. These are definitely more advanced, but just it's good to know that these are there. The main part of this section actually is not that you guys can replicate exactly this stuff that we're doing, but just that you know that these things are there, so that when you have an idea a year from now or whatever, you go, oh yeah, that's right. There's a design function that does that, and then now you know where to go looking. The mobile area has information that only works for iPad and iPhone. So the version of FileMaker that runs natively on those devices can grab the extra sensor data from that device in a way that you cannot do from a Mac or PC or from website. So for example, location gets the latitude and longitude. Range beacons can use those little Bluetooth locators, and it will tell you, like if you're in a museum and each painting has a little widget on it, it can read the ID of what the widget is, tell you how far it is from you, and then look up its ID to tell you information about that particular artwork, for example. Or in a warehouse, you can say, you know, where's the closest door? So range vision, that's an advanced feature of FileMaker Go. That's it for the tour of that. So I'm going to briefly talk about your assignment, and then we're going to take a break for a couple minutes, and we're going to come back and we're going to all do this separately and then together. Having just done the tour, here's your assignment. Right on this button, write a calculation that goes to the note data, that looks at the related data in the note table, and displays an icon on the layout if there's not a note that's within the last 30 days using that new date field. So this is also going to involve you maybe going to some record in the database and typing in some notes, and then typing some different dates so that you can kind of play with it. This is going to involve a couple of other things that we haven't talked about yet, but I want you to try to figure out. One of them is using an icon. So you have some icons in here, or you can also just use like the char function, or you could just even type a character because FileMaker also supports emoji, or you can just have a bullet. It doesn't really matter. Just kind of figure out what you want to do to display however you want it to look. And then we'll come together with some ideas after you guys play with it for a little bit. So for example, if I wanted a left arrow to appear, and then the other kind of cool part of this calculation is you could write the code in another area that we haven't looked at yet, which is called conditional visibility. And so over here, where is it? Placeholder. Hide object when. So you can, on a button bar, double click on it and have all of your code right here in your calculation window. But you can also just have a really simple object on your layout. Like I'm just going to make a button that has an icon, and the icon is an X, and it's going to have no code on it at all, right? If I double click it, it doesn't have anything. It doesn't do anything, and it doesn't have any code on it. But instead, I'm going to put the code on another layer, which is here in hide object when. So if I click this little guy, I can say hide object when, for example, is empty zip. So I'll have an icon that says exclamation point. Did I pass by it? You can scroll through. There's a bunch of different ones in here, like this one here. And I'm going to stick it next to the address. And the idea of this one is if there is no zip code, I've got my code backwards. So if not is empty zip, So in this case, there is no zip code. So it's telling me, hey, this is an error. If I type in a zip code, then the little icon goes away. So that's conditional visibility. And that's the assignment could use that if you wanted to use that, where you could either write a case statement or a let statement that looks at data in the notes table. And if there's not a note within 30 days, like using the max function, I'm giving you guys all kinds of clues, then it just displays an icon. And that way, like right up here or somewhere in a really clear area of the screen, you can see a little icon that says, hey, this record has not been looked at in a while. You should give it some attention. Okay, so take a little bit of a break. And when we come back, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have you guys work on it. So it's going to be kind of a quiet. If anyone wants to share your screen and kind of work on it with the class, we can do that. And then at the end, we'll kind of all take a look together and kind of take a look at what different approaches you guys took to make this work. That's and if it's that's the assignment. So I'll see you guys in a minute.
Okay.
I'm back. Are you guys diving into the assignment yet?
Yeah, trying.
Nice. Are you stuck on anything? How's it going?
I'm just trying to work through it.
Okay. Anybody else have a question at this as we start?
Yeah, I do. So we have to basically, when we have, how do we check more than one node? Pretty much.
If you use one of the aggregate functions like max, so remember we talked about those ones like min, max, count, sum, and list. They look at all the different related data. And so, like on this note, the most recent date is 9/5, which I can see at a glance. Oh, I'm not sharing my screen. Try to read my brain. Right, so this is 9/5.
Yep.
Chat. What's going on with that? So if I go to data viewer and it's got a lot of stuff in here, I should delete some of these things. Yeah, some of these are like, I don't know, not that useful. So I'll just grab this one. And I say max of note, which should be named differently, and then grab note date. That's going to grab the max date of all of the notes for this record. And if I flip through my records, that one has no notes, so there's nothing. But my first records in the database have notes, and here's another one. This one is 9/16. So it looks through this out of order list and then tells me the right one.
Okay. Yeah.
By the way, to sort these, I like to throw in little things like that. I can double click on the portal in layout mode. I could if Anne.
Oh.
When you go to browse mode, it should let me do it.
Oh. Sorry.
That's okay. And then also, you guys should each work on your own layout if you can, because you all have your own layouts in here.
Oh.
Otherwise, you're going to be running against each other if you're all working on my layout. Okay. On the notes table, if you double click on the portal, one of the choices is sort. And you can sort it by the note date. And I like to do it in descending order. And then it will always show you the records in descending order when you do it that way. That actually has no effect on a calculation that you write, but at least it will show you your data with your most recent note first.
Okay. And I didn't add the note date field. Can I just use the created the date created? Or
You can. Are you not working on this shared database? Because it would be best if everyone was working on this.
I am. It's just that the note date you added it earlier, but I didn't do it as well. Or I guess I could copy or layout.
I actually went through and populated all of the note date field, so that would be the ideal field to use. I would use that, not created, because the created one is not even displaying anymore. Oh, you know what?
Yeah.
It actually might be on yours though.
Yeah, on mine it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let me actually update yours because it would definitely be better if we were all using the. Yeah, you're all actually in your layouts. On all of your layouts, double click on the created thing and choose note date instead, because that's definitely going to be the better field to use.
Okay.
If you don't, if you want extra credit, you can use created timestamp. And that'll work just fine because FileMaker will work a timestamp field and a note field the same. It doesn't care. I'm also going to turn scrolling on here. So if I have more than a fit, it'll actually show. All right, I'll let you guys keep working on it for 5 to 10 more minutes, and then but if you have questions, definitely bring them up and we'll take a look together. Are you guys working at home or at a workplace, I wonder?
I'm at home.
Workplace.
I'm at home.
I'm at home.
I'm at home too, a little corner of my living room. Only one at work. Well, I mean, we're all at work, but you know what I mean.
As I keep telling family members, I'm working.
That's true. And they're like, but let's play a video game.
And you're sitting there and you're in our house.
I love when I have video meetings and like people's kids come into the frame for a hug or help with something or whatever.
My brain is not working. I'm struggling with this whole thing.
You want to share your screen? Let's see where you're at.
No, I don't want to share my screen.
It's okay. Well, if you don't, we can also, I can at some point, which I'm probably going to get to maybe even now, just kind of work through this and kind of do it so you can see, and you can, I'll go slow and you can follow along.
Okay.
Although it's actually kind of better if I just talk you through it and you do it,
Oh, okay.
if you want to try that. Which means we're back to, want to share your screen?
Oh, I mean, I just feel like calculations and scripting is my biggest challenge as far as where to start and piece it. I've been able to do that, but it's such a slow process for me.
They're the hardest parts. Don't feel bad about it. But they're also fun, and so yeah, it's fine. Yeah, one of the things I've learned as a teacher is the importance of meeting everybody where they're at and like being in, finding out what you do get, because I know you have a lot of, you definitely understand a lot of this. I saw that yesterday, and kind of just going through it.
Okay.
And I also didn't make this an easy assignment. I mean, I used some stuff that we talked about before, but it has a few new wrinkles to it. So yeah, if you share your screen, and I would recommend that you start in the data viewer, and we'll build the calculation up bit by bit. One of the other skills that I think is a really good one to have is to work in very small pieces.
Okay.
Okay, this is good. So go to the tools menu. Or what do you have so far? Have you started the calculation?
No, I just deleted it.
Oh, okay.
I have
So that's
some
good. Go to
idea.
tools. I didn't hear that.
I have some ideas, and honestly, this data viewer, I did not know what this was for. Like I
Yeah.
hadn't used this watch before, so this has been very nice to know.
Yeah, it's a great feature. And this is what I mainly use it for. Well, you saw how mine was full of calculations, right?
Yes.
So let's start with a really simple one. Let's use the max function. So just type max right in the expression area and hit enter. And then over where it says customer on the top left, change it to note. And then grab the note date. That's your whole function right there. Right, now click monitor. And then you want to save, as you build these calculations, save them, let them kind of use a lot of them so you can refer to them and copy and paste. Click exit layout in the top right. And then as you flip through records, yeah, way up there in the top right.
Oh, exit layout. Okay.
Yeah. Exit layout is basically going to browse mode. So you can either hit Control B to go to browse mode, or exit layout, or there's keyboard, there's menu commands, there's lots of different ways. Click on the notes tab, and you can see that on this layout, oh yeah, you're still using the timestamp function. So go to layout mode and click on the, you're already on the notes tab. Double click on creation timestamp over on the right and change that to note date. So if you just double click it and change to a different field, that's how you tell FileMaker to show different data on the same place.
Okay.
So now go to browse mode again, exit layout, Control B. And now that you can see the same thing that we're looking at. So you can see that your function says max note 1015.
Okay.
And if you flip to the second record, that max note is 1021. Go to the third record, 921. So you can see there's only one there.
Okay.
But that's how this function works. Okay, so that's the first leg of your calculation is how do I just show the max date? Okay, now let's wrap that in a case function. So type in the word case at the very beginning of that. And then delete all that. And then delete that right parentheses. And then put a return in right there. And so in a case statement, we have a test and a result on each line. So the test is max note date, and then we're going to say is less than. So put in a right there, a less than sign. You can also type it or use it that way. And then let's just hard code a date. So in quotes, put in 8/21 / 2021. I think you actually need a 4-digit year, but I'm not sure.
Oh.
Okay, so you're basically saying if the note, if the most recent note is earlier than a month from today, a month ago, hard coded, then, so you need a semicolon right now. And then in quotes, just put the word old. So we can do more stuff with this code and then hit a return. And now we have to close out the case statement with a parentheses, right parentheses. That looks like it should work, but it's not working. Oh, that's because that one, it is working because that record is actually recent. So go ahead and click monitor. That saves that function. And then flip through records. There you go. So go back one. There was a record. Yeah, that one also has no notes, right? And so therefore there are no follow-ups. And so the oldest follow-up is definitely old.
Okay.
Okay, so now let's make our calculation a little bit smarter.
By seeing whether or not it's empty or not.
Well, I don't think I need to worry about that. Empty is okay, but I don't think I want to hard code the date.
So you're going to do the get current date?
Yeah, so we have to actually have two functions there.
Okay.
So select everything in the quotes, 8/21 open and close, and then delete that. And type in get current date. Get, and actually just type the whole thing out. So just do it very, very carefully. Yeah, there you go. And then just type in current, and then current date. Good, okay. Now click monitor. So we're not done, but this at least works, like the function does work. Double click it again. And then, okay, we need to actually say current date minus 30. Do you think that minus 30 needs to go inside the current date parentheses or after it?
No, outside of it.
Yeah, you're correct. It's correct. So just type, and yeah, you can either use that one or just type minus 30.
You know, and I don't know, I can't give you any specific example, but I know sometimes if I don't use it from here and I just type it in, it doesn't work. Like, and I don't know if it was my keyboard or, so I always just feel safer just selecting from this.
Well, if you select from there, it certainly makes the greater than, less than, and the pilcrow and the not equals, those are easier to do. But I usually just type on the keyboard for
And
most.
it should work, right?
Yeah, it always does for me, pretty much. But we're in
Okay.
remote desktop land, and it's a little bit different when you're controlling a remote computer. So click Monitor, and then flip through records with this function, because this should work the same as the one that you just did. There we go. So those two records, the one with an old date and the one with no date, are working correctly. Your calculation is now good. So change that. So rather than the word old, just change the word old and put an exclamation point in that. Then select the entire thing and copy to the clipboard. And then click Monitor. And then go to Layout Mode. Double click on the assignment. Click on the pencil, select that whole thing and delete it. And then paste. You're done. That's the whole assignment.
Okay, the part I didn't get was the max.
Yeah, but you have that in there now.
Yeah, it's just I wasn't thinking that was
Yeah.
a step. So
Okay, play with that for a second. I'll be back in a second. But yeah, go to browse mode and flip through records and see how it looks.
okay. Help if I could see the note.
Is it like you wanted?
Yeah, that looks like it works.
So there's definitely some more advanced things that we could do. Other places we could put that calculation, conditional formatting, conditional visibility, using an icon. That I think, we could kind of take it to the next level.
How would you get an icon in there from the button icons?
I'm going to take over sharing and show you that.
Okay.
Follow along. But I'm actually going to grab what you just did as the starting point for what I'm working on. Right, so here's your calculation, which is perfect. And I'm going to go to my layout. And I'm going to move this off to the side so we can still keep that calculation text in there. And then just place yours here. I'll actually place yours in a button bar. And make sure it still works on my layout. And it does. Okay, so if I want an icon to show, one way that I could do this is this. I could have the calculation not here in the button bar, but I'll paste it over here to hide object when. Now, hide object when wants a Boolean result. So there's this little clue down here in the bottom corner. Boolean means one or not one, basically. So it could be 1 or 0, but Booleans can, generally they're either 1 or is true, and 0 or empty is null. But it also says non-zero values are true. So in other words, 2 or 17 are also true, but anything that's 0 or empty is false. So that's how that works. So in this case, rather than an exclamation point, I'm going to say the number 1. So if the max of the note date is less than the current day minus 30, then true. 1. Oh, and by the way, when we use a 1 or any numeric result, it does not have to be in quotes. It's just so the only time you need quotes in a calculation is if it's a text string. But if it's a number or a function, it does not need quotes. Okay, so that's our code now. And then that's hide object when is that code. And then rather than having my whole function here, I'm just going to delete all this and change my style of button to an icon. So right now it's text. And this is icon only. This is icon with text below, icon with text above, icon with text to the left, etc. So I'm just going to say icon, icon, and I'm going to use the let's see, the calendar icon. So like, hey, by the way, calendar, as in not like show a calendar, but like there's a calendar issue with this record. Actually, that's a bad idea because that really is like, hey, this is the drop-down calendar. I am going to use the exclamation point guy. Okay, so the thing that's likely to break here, and that often works not the way you expect, is when you do hide object when, it's kind of like a double negative world. So when this thing is true is basically then hide it. And very frequently, you want to say like, when this thing is not true, then hide it. So I expect this to not work. and it's very common to just kind of go back and forth and iterate, right? Play. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and save this now. Exit layout, Control V. And I can see that it actually is broken. All right, so this one has a note that actually is recent. And so the exclamation is showing. And this one is old and it's not showing. So my logic is opposite.
Okay.
So here's how I fix it. I click on, by the way, notice that when I click on my button, this is actually sort of two objects. One of them is the containing button bar, and the next one is the actual button. So if this button has multiple segments, which they frequently do, and we're going to get to when we start learning about navigation, I can have conditional visibility applied to the whole entire object and also to each segment within the object. And in this case, I want it to be on the segment because I might want to actually expand this. So I'll go ahead and make this a one segment one again. And now I'm going to go into my calculation and fix it and say case max note date is less than current date 30, then 0, otherwise 1. Okay, so now it's not showing on this one because that's valid, and it is showing on this one because it needs attention. I'm going to further say, I'm going to go in here to the text of this and change this to like an icon with text, and then write, please follow up. Except I'll shift my fingers correctly. And a little bit of a nod to where we're going to be also going in this class. I'm going to show themes. We actually did look at this yesterday. And I'm going to pick a theme that doesn't make this look like a clickable button. And so I can see like a little clue to follow up. As I flick through my records, I can see this kind of a thing jumping up here. I'm going to move this up to the up here. So I can sort of see a little, a little hint. It's like, hey, by the way, this record needs follow up. Okay. Quiz. Can I search on this text?
No.
Correct. I cannot. Why?
Because it's a but. And it's
Right. Not a calculation.
not right in a
Good.
field.
What would I do if I wanted to make it searchable?
Put a calculation in a field.
That's right. And then I can make it searchable.
What about the apply in find mode button right under the IDObject when? What does that do?
Oh, so you're talking about here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this will hide the object if you're in find mode. So like if I in browse mode, if I go to find mode, I don't want that to be there. So it's actually trying to evaluate. It's trying to evaluate this logic. And I don't want that. Actually, I'm not. I was expecting that it was in find mode, it would not show up, but it actually is showing up. So that's actually not quite exactly for this object, but what this can do is it tells the calculation to try to apply when you're in find mode.
Okay.
By the way, it's advanced. When I'm in find mode and searching, I don't want this. So here's how I can fix that. I can make another condition and add that to my existing code in my hide object. And say if the mode is find mode, then don't show. So if I search for mode, there's a function called getWindowMode. I'm going to go back to the notice down here it says returns a number representing the mode of the FileMaker product when the function is evaluated. Okay, we're in mode 4 right now. So browse mode is mode 0. Layout mode is mode 4. Find mode is mode 1. And preview mode is mode 2. Don't know why there's not a mode 3, but whatever. When I'm in find mode, which is mode 1, I do not want that button to appear. So I'm going to say in my case statement, case get window mode equals 1, then hide. Otherwise, if the max note date is before my 30, then don't hide. Otherwise, hide. So hide, don't hide, hide. It seems weird, but I think it's actually going to work. We're going to keep working on this, by the way, because I'm going to rewrite that as a let function. And so now if I go to find mode, oh, that's really good. It's actually not hiding. Oh, you know why? Because I think I still have to actually click this button. Now, if I'm in find mode, it's hidden, and that's the way I want this to work. So that actually turned out to apply to this situation. I did need to click that box. It's actually kind of weird. This is a pretty simple calculation, right? I mean, it's got a few things going on. It's got 2 totally different types of tests. It's only referring to each thing one time. But I still kind of like writing these as a let function because it's not that long. I don't know, I just prefer it. So I'm going to rewrite this. I'm actually going to go to data viewer. Okay, I want to know mode. Mode equals get window mode. So I'll just cut this. I'm going to call this, I can't actually make a function called max because that actually is a function. It actually might let me do it, but I think it's kind of a bad idea to create a function, to create define a variable in a let that is the name of a function. So I'm just going to call it M, or like maybe max note, or most recent note. Maybe, yeah, most recent. And most recent is going to equal that. So basically what I'm trying to get to is just I'm going to make this atomic. I'm going to try to get each tiny little bit of data into its own little variable to make this calculation as simple as possible. Right, so if mode equals 1, and I maybe even change that to like find mode, right? If find mode even, then true. And so I can have another thing in here that says, you know, case mode equals 1. So I can define a variable called find mode with a short case statement that says if mode equals 1, then true, it's in find mode. That's maybe more than we really would need to do, but it allows me to have this be a little bit more logical. Case find mode, then true. If most recent is before current date minus 30, and then I'm going to make another one called cutoff. Cutoff equals this function. Always in the let statement, remember you have a top and a bottom. Top is where you define your variables. Bottom is where you have your calculation. They're separated by a semicolon after the square brackets. And the purpose of these is to make your calculation as simple as possible. And you want to make the goal here is make these really clear. And so as you evolve and test this over time, it's least likely to break, easiest to manage, and easiest to write. It's designed. Hopefully, this is to make your life easier once you get good at them. It's like playing scales on a piano. You know, it's an important skill. So if most recent is earlier than cutoff, we can also kind of reverse this logic, right? Like if most recent is after cutoff, then 1. And then we don't even need that failover. So we basically are testing for 2 true things. If we're in find mode, then don't show it. And if the most recent note is after the cutoff date, then don't show it. So the other thing I like about this is if we wanted to change anything about this function, like the number of days, we can kind of easily just go one spot and say, oh yeah, I want to make this 45 days, or whatever. So you kind of want to have each little bit of data appear only one time. And then as this gets more complex over time, again, like make it as easy to maintain as you can. That's a best practice that I would recommend. So for example, what is a month? Is a month 28 days, 30 days, 31 days? What do you guys think of when you think of a month?
30.
I think that's reasonable. It does mean that if you're looking at a record on the 31st and there was a note on the first, it's still within the month, and it's going to be true, and it's going to say it's old. But little things like that, I can totally tolerate. This is a lot more code than the where we started, and it's the exact same function. I don't think I really made my case to say that this is actually simpler, but I do think that it's actually easier to kind of wrap your mind around it when you write them in this way, because you only have to think of it one tiny bit of data at a time. And as you look at each of these lines, they're like really clear. And nothing is nested. Right, so there's no nested functions here at all. Each thing has exactly only one function. So like the actual most recent cutoff thing is looking at three things. It's looking at the most recent, which is a function, the cutoff, which is a function, and then comparison, which is a function. I'll shut up about that. Okay, I'm going to copy this clipboard. I'm going to go back to my layout. Where'd my button go? Oh, here. I had moved it. Cleverly outsmarted myself. Yeah, look how much more code this is, right? So, I mean, we replaced 2 lines of code with 6. Well, 3, I guess, because this was here. But so some of the time when you write these, you're actually going to make it much shorter by writing it this way, but not on this one. Okay, let's see. Oh, let me go to my notes tab. Yeah, this does still appear to work, right? So I've got an 8.1 note that needs follow up. And then another one with no note at all, that still works as well. If I went and put a note in here, you know, whatever. Now I make a note and all of a sudden that disappears immediately. So it's very fast. Okay. That ends the calculation part of today. We have more stuff on the agenda. Before we go on to the next thing, we're going to take another short little break to stretch and get tea or whatever. Are there any questions on this from you? Before we dive into layouts?
Nope.
You know, looking at my agenda, we actually covered a little bit of layouts already. We looked at object visibility. But
Oh, I have a question about that.
Yes.
So there's a database that I'm going to be working in. I did not design it. There are a lot of hidden objects. Does that typically slow the database down if there's a lot of hidden objects?
It depends upon the depth and intensity of the calculation.
Okay.
If we had a layout like this one, and let's say we had 100 objects just like the one we're looking at, that all actually had a function in there that looked at related data, and this is the slow line here. So this is the only line that's slow, the one that actually looks at related data, because it has to read through the whole thing. I would submit that if you had this button on here 100 times, you would actually start to feel the speed. It would be like, I don't know, twice as slow or maybe more compared to what it should be. But it would take that many before you start to feel it. Also,
100 or more?
Yeah,
Is that
100, something like that. Or if you use the execute SQL function, or if you use really unstored, like really intense calculations. For example, take a look at all the notes, add them up, add up the total of all the invoices, compare those two things to this other thing, and then if that's true, then make the object visible or invisible. When you have a lot of things like that, it can start to slow it down.
Okay.
Usually, but those are usually not the first place where things slow down, but it can.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand why it's so slow. And I had read something about that. If there were a lot of hidden objects, that could slow it down.
It can. A really easy test to try is to make a duplicate of the layout. So you can go to this guy here, click on your layout and click duplicate. And then call it like test. And then open up that test layout. And then delete some stuff and see if it's faster, right? So like if it's really slow to click through records and it just takes a long time, you can on your test copy of the layout, you can just click on it and say, I'm going to try what it's like without this. And then flip through records and like, oh my God, it's faster now. Now you know what it is and what it is not.
Okay.
So there's some kind of good tests you can do for things like that to optimize for speed. And then when you're done, you can just delete that test layout. And you've done no harm to the database. Just make sure not to work on the live one. I've
Yeah.
a couple of times. Okay. One other very small thing. Notice on this layout, and then we're going to take a break, I promise. On this layout, I see this little line here, and if I scroll, it's a list. I'm like in a long list, which is not what I want. And that's because these icons here, this is sort of a problem. Users will not know how these work. And I want you guys as developers to know how they work. This actually modifies the structure of the layout and tells it to act either as a form or as a list or as a table. In form view, when you scroll, it only scrolls the height of that form. In list view, it turns it into an entire list. And in table view, this is a really problematic one. None of your interface is there. So this just turns it into a spreadsheet. And if a user does this, and that sticks with the layout, right? When I come back, it's like this is a spreadsheet. And users are going to be like, what the hell? My layout's broken. All my stuff's gone. So here's how to fix it. I'm actually going to, let's see, I'll make this still in list view. If I edit my layout, so I go to layout mode, Control L, I'm going to click on the little pencil on the layout. And I'm going to go to views and say the only valid view for this layout is form view. This prevents the user from being able to change the view. It just turns those two buttons off. I submit a best practice on your report layout. Modify the view. It looks like you may have already done this. Yeah, you did. Or either you did or FileMaker did. Modify the view on your report layout so that the only valid view is the one that you want. And so if you have a table view, you use those kind of carefully, sparingly. So form views are form views, list views are list views, and you should not let the user change back and forth because there's generally not a good reason to do it. So little tip. Okay, 3 minutes or so, and then we're gonna nerd out on layouts more for a bit, and an introduction to themes and conditional formatting, tooltips. That's what we're going to be looking at. All right, how you guys liking this so far?
It's good. The calculating fields are pretty nice.
Good, I'm glad you like that. Xavier Julie was saying some really nice things about you at DIS.
Oh,
You've got a fan over there, which is good.
I was not aware.
Well, now you are. Don't tell her I said so. Wait, it's on recording. Have you been there for a while doing other things?
Well, I started the internship 3 weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
3 weeks ago. So for 3 weeks.
So you did not work there before then in any capacity?
Nope, never.
Okay. How did you know her then?
I didn't. I don't think so. Well,
Oh, I thought she said she knew you for years. Maybe she's thinking about somebody else.
yeah, she might be. I don't know.
I mentioned you by name. She said she's known you for a while and likes you. So anyway, take it as a compliment, even if
Okay.
it's wrong. That's what I say. Okay. Questions on the assignment? We're a little short on time. I was thinking about like reviewing your assignments. I'll do that separately, and then I'll have some notes for you guys tomorrow. I'll just take a look through each of your layouts and review things. And that's about to get really fun because now we're going to dive into themes and more layout design type features. And the chance to really personalize and make seriously ugly layouts is the assignment right now. Because we're going to be looking at themes. So I'm going to have each of you guys make your own custom theme and explore some of the features you can use with themes. So, so these two tabs over here are the theme and the style tab. The database file can contain any number of themes, and a theme can only be created from another theme. Let's see, that's actually not showing me all my themes. Yeah, right here is Apex Blue. And this shows me the style for a given object. But I can also apply up here a different theme to the layout. So far, we've been using the default theme for FileMaker 19 called Apex Blue, which is really, really nice. Definitely, I think it's actually the best one they've ever done. But there's all these other themes as well that you can use. And you can make your own theme, which I'm going to have each of you do and apply to your layout, and then show you how to start customizing it with style. So first, let me give a little bit more of an overview. So the theme contains styles for each type of object, and it's universal across your entire database file, but just one file. So if you have a multi-file solution, you have to, after you make your theme and perfect it, you can import it from one file to another. But then it's independently maintained in each file. So it's definitely better to have one file where all your theme work is done. To make a theme, each of you should go to your own layout. And up here in the corner, I'm going to just modify something here. Let's see, how would I do this? I don't usually make themes very often, but I want to start making a change. So I'm going to click on an object, and you can see that the object is default. If I choose one of the other styles, that changes how it's going to look. And I can then make a change to the theme to the way the style looks. For example, I can make this italic by hitting Control-Shift-I. Actually, that did not work. I'll change it to bold. Yeah, Control-Shift-B. And that makes this red. So when you click on something and it's not red, that means there's no custom style associated with it. But if I click on it and let's see, let's go back to this one and start customizing it, that makes it a custom object. It's a custom style, and you generally don't want those. It's much better to have all of the objects on your layout be entirely within the theme. And here's the reason why. So you can apply your object to the entire layout. Okay, so let's say that my my main field over here, default, I want to make a style that puts this in a little smaller font than that. So I'm going to go to my view menu and I'm going to turn on my formatting bar so I can see my font size. I'm going to make that 14 point because this is too big. And I'm going to make the color gray. And I'll keep the font as Arial. I'll make it even a little bit lighter gray. Yeah, that's pretty good. And that says default. So I'm going to change this to, by the way, don't follow along quite yet. I'm going to say save as current style. And a subtle thing just happened when I did that. The first time I make a custom change to my style within my theme, the theme itself changed. And now it says, oh, you've made a change to your theme. Therefore, I'm going to show you that the theme itself needs to be changed. And also, the little asterisk tells me it's unsaved. So now I'm going to click on this thing here, and I'm going to say save as a new theme called Matt. In a minute, I'm going to have one of you guys share your screen and go through that process because those are not obvious steps. But I'm going to do a couple more things first. Okay, on my default theme, my default style is now right align and a little bit lighter gray. And I'm also going to change my default form, this one, to 14 point. And by the way, I can make these changes on either up here, or I can make them in here or in here. Anywhere I make the changes, it's going to apply. So for example, 14 point, the graphic is going to be filled with a solid color, which is going to be white. The spacing is going to be 2 pixels on the left and 0 on the right. And notice when I do that, I can it gets closer to the edge. And I'm going to not have corners. So there's another area here that says roundness of my edge, corner radius. I'm going to turn that to 0. So there's a whole bunch of little controls that we get. So notice that all of my fields everywhere are round, 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 round. But this one's square because I've overridden it. So now I'm going to go back here and I'm going to say save my default. Save my current style, which is default. And now everything in my whole layout is changed to square and 14 point. However, your layouts did not change because you're using the theme Apex Blue and I'm using the theme Matte. I'm going to make one more change. I'm going to change the background color of my top navigation. So I'm going to say, I don't want to fill this with this color. I want to fill it with like a green hue, but not that dark. And I'm even going to go crazier. I'm going to do it with a gradient. And I'm going to put in multiple colors. So I'm going to say it's going to be green on one end and red on the other. And but it's going to be mostly green. So I'm going to add 3 points to this. So, and I want it to be left to the right. So this is where I choose my angle, like 90 degrees. Or sorry, I need 180. Yeah, so that's 180, but I think I actually want 0 because I want it to be from the other way around. There we go. Green, 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 red. It's hideous. And your object is to make a hideous theme and then gradually make it pretty. I can move the point that it starts to turn from green to red. Oops, I just... And then the last feature that I'm going to show you is on each of these color points, there's actually an opacity level. How opaque is it? How intense is the color? So I can actually have each point be a different level of opacity, which has a lot of really good uses as you go along. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and save my theme. And I'm going to have one of you share your screen and go through those steps and make a nice hideous theme for us all. Who has not shared today?
I'll do it.
You always share, but I'll let you. Thanks. Okay, you're on your layout. So I'll walk you through the steps again. Click on any object. Yeah, it can be a portal, it can be a field, it can be a label, it can be a button bar, it can really be anything. And then the tab panel that you clicked on right now is actually a little bit of a tough one to use as an example. Because the styles are a little subtle on those. So I would recommend, yeah, like a field is really good. Yeah, you made it bold, great. Now notice in the top right, it says default. So click on the little red and say save current style. And then notice at the very, very top, it says, oh, you're in Apex, but now you've changed it. So click on that red in the top right and say save as new theme. So do not save it to the other theme because otherwise it affects it for everybody. And then call this one Xavier or Xavier, if you will. Now you have made your own theme. Okay, I'm going to show you one other cool thing. Go to the File menu to Manage. Around a third of the way down. And then Themes is on the bottom there. This is a way that you can list who has done this and how many layouts are associated with the theme. So Sue has made a theme, but it's not yet associated with her layout. Xavier, did you make a report yet? I thought you did.
I'm not sure.
Well, click cancel and go to layout menu. Sorry, yeah, there you go. Go to reports. You do have one. Okay, change the theme of this layout to your theme. You do that in the top right by clicking on the theme above there in the top menu bar. It says theme Apex Blue.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, change that one right there to your theme. That's how you do it.
Okay.
Now, click on customer on the field and change it to make it not bold anymore. That's Control-Shift-B. And make it italic. And then save, click on customer again. And then go to your default area where you have the red. say save changes to current style, and then save theme. These are 2 steps you really have to do. Now, after you do that, click save and then navigate back to your data entry layout. And everything is not bold and italic. That's the beauty of themes and styles. So you can apply changes that you make in color, font, size, line, shading, spacing, basically everything in one place. And then improve the look of your layout just in one spot. So that's the carrot is a huge payoff. That's the benefit. The downside is, as you're looking at your layout, you have to really be thinking about what type of an object is this? This is a field. Is it a data entry field or is it an editable field? Is it display only? Is it a calculation? Can the user click into it? Is it right align? Is it left align? So you have some decisions to make about like the style of object that you have, and you have sort of a palette of colors, and you don't want to use too many of them because it gets too ugly. So you sort of want to intentionally, like this is best practice land again. You kind of intentionally want to use a limited array of look and feel so that your database becomes not too complex looking. I feel sure that in each of your daily lives, you see FileMaker databases that are really, what do we call those? Like ransom note a little bit, you know, different fonts, different colors. Or another term we use is like a fruit salad kind of a layout where it's just every single color in there. Angry fruit salad actually is my favorite, one of my favorite phrases. Actually, that would be a good name for a theme I should make one day. Who else wants to share? Because I think I don't see enough themes in here. And I want to make sure you guys get this because there's a few steps in there that are not obvious. So I want to have you practice them one more time. And then we'll talk more about the different types of objects and how you can style them. Carly, Faith, one of you guys want to share? Crickets?
I have like no audio right now. I'm hearing about every like 4th word.
Oh
But I
no.
can still try if you want, but I'd rather not because I'm
I
just
can-
trying to piece together.
Okay, I can hear you really well. I'm really sorry that there's audio is not getting to you. Wow. So yeah, you can watch the video, but that's definitely not as good as following.
Yeah. Well, I did follow along with how to create a theme. I did that, but
Okay.
I can see everything happening in real time, just not the audio.
Darn. You think it's like a problem with your internet, or what do you think it is?
Yeah, definitely an internal.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Still, well, the video will have it, and when you download the video on YouTube, that should allow you to watch it. That's definitely less fun to have to watch the whole class that way, but
Yeah.
Faith left and came back. Hello.
Yeah, when I tried to screen share, my computer crashed.
Oh, wow.
Well, not the whole thing. Sorry, just the Teams crashed. So I mean,
Okay.
so everything is fine on.
Okay, good.
So I just got back in there. So.
Okay. Well, Carly, I'm not really sure what to do. It's not like a Wi-Fi issue. You can go in a different part of the thing. It's just like your total internet from where you are or something.
Yeah, it's a known issue.
Oh, okay. Well, dang. Naturally, I want to try to fix it, but there's not a damn thing. So, Faith, do you want to try to share?
Okay, I'm gonna try to share again, and then
Okay.
and then just let me back in the meeting if it times out again.
Okay.
Okay, it worked this time.
Okay, good.
Okay, I was just trying to make these little bars here, but
Nice. Look at that.
I have this little thing hanging out. I'm not sure how to change it.
Yeah. So, what do you mean? You mean the edge of the layout extends past?
Yeah. like just for the header or the navigation.
Yeah, the top navigation does extend off like that.
Or do I change it?
I don't know if you can actually,
Okay.
because the part itself has that style. Actually, there is a way. Right now, you have assigned your gradient, which by the way is not ugly. That's quite attractive. Those two shades of green and the shade between them is really good. So I'm taking off points because you made something that's attractive.
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I'm just totally kidding you.
Green's my favorite color, so I just
Yeah, they're good.
green.
So it's a little weird, but the workaround for this one is not to use a theme associated with a part itself, but to make a box. So change your part to just white.
Okay.
Or nothing actually. Let's see over there. Okay, where it says gradient, just say none. And then draw a box. So that's if you go to the top, yeah, that one right there. Just make a small one for now. And then apply your color to it. You're going to have to remake that. So you can say, yeah, there you go, gradient. And then you choose your two colors. Did you use transparency? Oh, I'm going to show you another great tip here, by the way. Okay, slow down because you're going to love this. Click on your left color. Click on that color again. Everyone take a look at this for a second. With that color clicked, there's that top area that you have that has all those color bars on it. You see that? Black, gray, blue. And then you've got some blank areas of white. Take the green color that you currently have and drag it down to that first white area to the middle box. So the middle row of the 3 rows. Yeah, right there.
Sorry.
Click on that again and notice what it did. FileMaker made for you a light, medium, and dark of that color. Choose a red color from down at the bottom and do the same thing, right? So this basically, it constructs for you like a convenient palette of colors in light, medium, dark that helps you build layouts that are not hideous. And by the way, those combinations on the layout you would definitely meet my goal of angry fruit salad. Anyway, so that's the tip that I wanted to show. Okay, let's go back to your gradient. Your gradient looks great now.
Thank you.
So make it wider. And then now when you go to browse mode, it should not extend past the edge.
Okay. I just have to go back and get that.
There's two other little tips. I'll drop 2 other tips on you here. Okay. With it, so click once on that box. Yeah, where it is at the top. Yeah, you're getting a little bit ahead because I'm trying to give you a tip that's going to help you with exactly the problem you're having right now.
Okay.
Okay, click once on that box and it's selected. Go to the Arrange menu and say Send to Back. And the second thing I want you to do is go to, it's actually in the menu bar at the top. File Edit View, Arrange, up. Yeah, and I want you to lock it. Oh, you've locked the wrong thing. Click on that color box and lock that, yeah. Now, you can't, try to just click it and move it. It just won't let you. So this says, that's a background object, it's locked. You can unlock it if you want, but it's locked. So now you can move your ID field back to the top of it. And then it should look as you want it to look. Great. Even with the object locked, you can make certain changes, but you can't just move it around. So for example, I think you could probably click on it. I think your box actually has lines. Click on your background box again.
Yeah, it has solid line.
Yeah, so solid, turn that to none. Oh, it actually doesn't let you, so you have to unlock it. Yeah, I was wrong about that. Unlock, turn lines to none. And it doesn't really matter if there's a point size or not. Okay, It's the second part of this lesson, and I love how you're totally tying everything together here. A box is a type of an object that can have a style. So fields, labels, any kind of text, buttons, button bars, button segments, tabs, tab panels, portals, all those things, but also boxes. So in your, okay, you're on the third tab. You're on the style tab. Go to the one to the left of it. Yeah, the theme. Yeah, sorry, I'm giving them the wrong names. The style tab is the second one. The appearance tab is the third one. So you're on the correct tab now, the second tab, style. Click on the little red where it says default and go slow here. Save as new style. Call it green box or whatever you want. And then save your theme. Whoa, sorry about that. Something just fell. Was that as loud for you guys as it was for me? I knocked something off my table. Oh, is somebody, what was that message? I missed something as I looked away.
Yeah, I can't. Let's try again.
Okay, I didn't see it. Does it say somebody was editing?
Yeah.
Yeah, so only one person can be actively looking at a theme, managing the overall theme thing at the same time, just like all the other areas that we've seen for multiple user control.
All right, so I got that saved.
I see you did your assignment too, your approval needed little box. Okay, so now that you've done that, if you just draw a new box on your layout, I guess it's kind of obvious, but if you can just draw a box and you can use that theme really quickly.
Oh yeah, there we go.
Yep. And then just change your theme by choosing one of the other ones. Yep. So it's kind of nice to have like a little palette of all the ones in each of your own themes, so that you can express your look and feel of how you want things to look. Let's explore a little bit more some of the other things that we get to control. A really good one is the button. So click on the assignment button just to play with it, or any button, that one works too. Okay, if you click on it once, notice that all of your different themes come up. Your styles for that type of an object. And then go to the third tab, the appearance tab. And then let's take a minute to explore some of the things that we get on a button, because there's a lot. Inner shadow, outer shadow, spacing. If you scroll down, obviously you get font. You get fill. Like over on the right, yeah, that panel, you get all these other features. Indentation, line height, a lot of really subtle things. Some of them are word processing concepts that go back to the 1980s. You know, the basic line height and tab stops and stuff like that. Click once more on your button to select your actual button object inside of it. I don't think it did it. So click outside of it in the white, and then click once on the button, and then once more. I'm not seeing the change that I expect to see. So there's, did you make a button or a button bar? Oh, you made a button, not a button bar.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the issue. Okay, hit cancel on that, or the X, and use my button in the top right, the assignment thing.
Okay.
A button and a button bar are different. So in the top right, where I say assignment, write a calculation, if you click on that once and then twice, you can see that the theme changes quite a bit, right?
Yeah.
So with it selected once, all of the different styles and objects that you can do are quite different. So click to the gray, just outside, close the little button bar setup thingy. Yeah, good. Now go to the second tab, the styles tab. And then click once on your button bar. That's your button, not that one, but mine, the assignment thing. Notice now that with it clicked once, those are your themes for your button bar. So you can choose a different thing, try a different one, and you can see how they look. Go back to default. Click it again once more, the button object, and it's the same stuff, but with it clicked the second time, you get quite a bit more control in the third tab, the appearance tab. So more things will appear here, like your segmentation. And what I really want to look at is the stuff on top there. So, and they're kind of subtle. How do you want your segment to look between your sections? And then the other one that's really important is inactive. So this is, you get a whole set of look and feel. Click on inactive and you can see the different drop-down choices. You get a complete set of how you want it to look when the button is inactive, just sitting there. Another set for when it's active, which means it's actually clicked into or tabbed into. Another set for when you're hovering over it, which obviously is only good for Mac and PC, cannot hover over something on the iPad. Another one for while it's currently being depressed but has not yet been let go of. And then another one for in focus, which is, yeah, so there's a lot of subtlety that you get to control exactly how you want a button to work. I don't really want to go into it, but I want you to know this is all there, because sometimes you're going to see things do weird stuff and you're going to want to know about how to fix these in your styles. Okay, that's what I want to point out on the button one. That's all you got. Okay, go to the portal. Click right in the notes portal, just right in the middle of the gray. Right down in the, yeah, right there. Now what you've done is you've selected your portal. Go to the second tab, your styles tab, and see that you've got a few different choices here, right? Click on those and see how they change. And go back to the default one. And let's take a look at some of the features that we get here. So the third tab, appearance. So some of the controls we get here in that very first drop down where it says portal. So we can either choose the portal itself or the portal row. So like with a button bar, we get sort of a conditional menu of like how we want the portal row to look. So we can alternate or not. You can have the portal filled with color or not. So all the same kind of things you'd expect there. Those are just two examples. I think this will be kind of clear, and it will echo through all the other things that you can do with themes and styles. So the assignment is going to be to play with this more, like after class, if you have some time to do that, and create a custom theme for 3 or 4 different types of objects. Or I should say, sorry, not a custom theme, a custom style. So each of you guys have already made a theme. I frequently say one when I mean the other, so sorry about that. Theme is a larger concept. Style is a smaller concept. So style is associated with one type of an object. And what I'd like you guys to do is make a style for a field, and maybe make one for the type of a field that you actually want to do data entry on, and one that's just displaying data. Make another style for how you want your portal to look, maybe another one for how you want your tab panel to look. Make a style for like a box, and that's probably enough. Let's see. Okay, I have a few more on my agenda. There's the next things I want to show. Faith, you want to keep running it?
Yeah, sure. 1 second.
Okay. Kind of like the pace of, it sort of prevents me from going too fast if someone is driving other than me. I want to teach you guys how to make some other types of data entry objects that make data entry better and easier. So in the top left there, we have 3 bits of data: the name of the customer, the name of the manager, and the phone number. I would submit that they really need to be on the screen all the time, but they're really rarely edited. And they may actually get edited accidentally. So I'm going to show you guys a cool feature. Actually, Faith is going to show you a cool feature. So go to layout mode, and we're going to make a new 1 segment button bar. Just put it in the green header for now. Remember this trick? Click the delete, the minus twice. Now that's a 1 segment button bar.
Oh, we want 2?
No, that's good. You want it just like that. Okay. Now, do you see where it says button, like type button? Down in the about 2/3 of the way down on the button bar setup screen. We're going to change this to a popover button. I don't think we've talked about these, what we might have. A popover button is a little mini layout on your layout. And you can have a lot of these. And by the way, these have very little effect on performance. So these are a really good way to improve performance, because the objects on a popover button don't get calculated until you click on it, until you click on the button. So if you've got any code that you really kind of want to have there, but it's a little bit slow, you can drop them on one of these and it will make things better. Okay, so the white thing on the left that says popover, if you click on that white object, that was a weird siren sound.
That's my phone going. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that. It's gone to message. I'll take
Oh,
it.
that's okay. So on the bottom where it says show title bar, uncheck that because you almost never want to see it. And the white object over on the left that's on top of your layout, click on that once, that big white box that's blank right now. To the left of that, there's a large one underneath your button. It's farther over to the left, right? 3 inches to the left.
Oh,
Right, yeah, right on that. It's not obvious to click on that. That is your little mini layout right there. Make that considerably wider and shorter. Basically, we're going to try to make it the shape so that it will fit all of those objects on the top of the layout. Yeah, you can move that out of the way. There, that's good. Okay, click on the X in the top left of that, and that closes it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to draw a box around customer manager and office phone. And cut them, Control X. Double click on your button thingy at the top. And that will open up that widget. Click right in the middle of the white and paste. Now it's going to click centered on where your cursor was. Undo that, Control Z. And click like 2/3 of the way over in the middle on the right. Yeah, right there. Just one click and then paste. Notice that it centers it right where you are, and it still didn't get it quite right. So undo that again. And now click dead center of that box. Yeah, just one click in the dead center of the box, which is a little bit to the right of that, I think. And then paste. That's a little, I think it's a little too far to the left still. So here's what's happening. So pause for a second. The customer label is not on the screen. And I know it's there. So undo it by Control Z again one more time. Click about an inch to the right of where you are. Farther, 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 farther. Another ½ inch right there. And then click once with the mouse and then Control V paste. Yeah, that's it. That's a subtle trick. But what FileMaker does when you cut and paste objects like that is it centers them on where you last clicked. It's a good tip. And I'm actually glad we had to kind of try it a couple of times. I certainly have to try it a lot of times like that. Okay, this is great. Shorten up the height of that button bar by clicking on the box on the bottom. Yeah. And then click the close, the X. And then we have only one more thing to do here. Grab the button and move it down. But now it doesn't actually have any data on it. And I really want to see who the customer is. So double click on that. And then click on the little pencil for the calculation. We've already kind of seen this before. So click on the little pencil to the right of that. And the bits of data that we want to show, we want to show the name of the customer. So double click the customer field. And then over on the right, choose ampersand, paragraph, ampersand. And then hit return to go to the next line of your calculation. And then I don't think we need to see, put the word manager. So type in quotes the word manager first. And then colon space after manager. And then after the quote, to the right of the quote character, just double click the manager field over in the left. That's actually going to not work. We need one more thing. We need an ampersand before the C underscore customer manager. Yep, that calculation is now correct. So click OK. And go to browse mode. I think we're probably not going to like the theme. But the basic idea here is we've compressed some data on the layout. We've made a decision that this data is not frequently edited, but needs to be on the layout. We want to prevent it from being accidentally edited, but make it very easily to manually edit it by merely clicking the button. So if you click the button, it'll pop up that little widget, and then we can change the name. We can change the manager's name from Bobby Potter to Bobby Porter, like if we made a typo. And then it will change live. So I would submit that that's kind of a good idea in some cases. And as you flip through the record, you'll see that it changes. Oh yeah, so you see another thing, right? So with it clicked, as you flip through from record to record, it actually stays open, which we probably don't want. Oh no, it closed it, didn't it? What do you guys think about this as a data entry widget, as a way to improve your database? Like, don't like?
Like,
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, it helps for just making it less busy.
Yeah. In the next 2 days, we're going to play more with these because there's a lot of other things you can do inside of this widget. You can show and hide segments. You can, as we saw with an icon, there's actually styles. So in this case, we probably want the customer name to be much larger and the manager name to be smaller. You can put a calculation in there if there's some sort of an error. You can, if there is no manager for whatever reason, you can just have that line be null so that it doesn't even show the word manager. Or you can say, please enter manager. You can, in other words, like on a normal data entry layout, click on the additional tab. So you can kind of see kind of what you get. The third tab in, yeah. That's got a bunch of other stuff in there. I really like widgets that help the users to use the database efficiently and subtly show if there's something missing that should be there or something that's out of range. And make it easy for users to use the database the way that you intend. So for example, the hourly rate, if it only should ever go between, say, I don't know, $30 an hour and 120, and someone puts in 3,000, you could just straight up prevent them from doing it with an angry error message. Or you could have some sort of a check that says, hey, this is important. This range needs to be here. Please fix it. Kind of like the widget, you know, the assignment from today of a calculation that shows a contact that needs follow-up. Okay, in our last little bit of time, let's talk about how we would structure this layout in terms of areas, data entry areas. I can't remember if in the beginning class if I talked about this concept of above the fold. Did I talk about that?
I don't think so.
In layout design. In a newspaper, newspapers historically have been folded either 2 or 3 ways, depending upon kind of how they are. And so when you see the paper on your porch, like back in the 1920s when all of you guys were, no, I'm just totally kidding. The stuff that was above the fold was really important and was going to be seen by everybody who looked at it. That concept comes through in a database, and it's everything that's on the layout above like a certain line. And in this case, it's like the top 1.5 inches of that layout, or 5 centimeters for you people who work in civilized measurements. And so on this layout, the 2 things that we really have up there are the name of the company and the manager and the ID of the record. To make this layout even better, I would actually move that calculation button up into the header. It's clearly going to need some different theming now. Move the assignment button off to the right. Way off to the scratch area. And then grab your tab panel by clicking on any of your tabs. And you guys might remember that anything that's off to the right of that gray line is not on the layout. It actually will not appear. Move your tab panel up so it's like just below the white. So it's like oh, by the way, to move it, you can just click once on the tab. You don't have to select it like that. So click out of it and then just grab one tab and move it. That's the easiest way to do it. Yeah, up a little bit more. You've got still quite a bit of white space there. There you go. I think that's actually good. Those are good. That's good metrics, right? Like that. If you had some other type of navigation, like some buttons for actions to run reports, you could put those on the right or the left. So there's a couple of other concepts from newspaper design and from really traditional print design that turn out to be really, really useful in database layout design. So above the fold is set a certain section and have everything be really scrutinized and really important and don't put CRUF in that area. And that's generally like the top portion of your layout. It should be a third or less. A second concept is columns. And columns are really good because the eye follows them really well, and they can work across tabs and parts of your layout. And FileMaker has a really cool feature which I'm going to show you right now, which is it has alignment markers. That's not the right tool. Go to the View menu. And let's take a look at some of the things that we have here. Okay, turn on rulers. Yeah, this is how you grab them. Go back to the View menu and let's take a look at a couple of other things. I find it useful. Click on the Show menu. So in the Show menu, this gives you a lot of different choices of things that you can show. And this doesn't apply to your database file. It's actually to your development environment. If you click buttons, then if you have a button on your layout, it gets a special kind of a highlight. Go back to that list, and there's another one that I think is really useful, and that's text boundaries, the third one. That shows you the boundaries of your header objects, and that way you can tell if they're too small or too wide or something like that. And then go there one more time, and I'm going to give you a caution. One of the other options in there is show sample data. Sample data can kill performance. The second one on the list, because if you're, it's actually, go ahead and turn it on for the moment. While you're in layout mode with sample data turned on, it actually shows you data from your database. And if you're looking at a layout with like 1 million records on it, but you're not, and you're in layout mode, and you have a summary function because you're working on a report, merely turning on sample data is going to cause FileMaker to calculate that summary, and you're not going to like that. So I recommend against that feature in general. But just so you know, what it does is it shows you data from your actual database while you're in layout mode. So go back and turn that one off. View. Okay, where did I leave off? Columns. Here's how you grab your guides. In the left ruler, that little strip that's on the left there, click and drag, go down, so that's the very, very top left. So in the middle of the ruler, just click and drag and bring it out to the right. Yeah, bring it out a ways. And then bring another one out. So you can have multiple of these little guides, and they're a really convenient way to align things so that your data, your layouts are really clean and consistent. Here's a good example of that. So take a look at your portal. Your work orders portal has a left edge. Grab another guide out from that left ruler and align it to the left edge of your portal. A little more to the right, yeah, to the portal itself, not to the tab panel. Keep going. So yeah, right there. Okay, click on your next tab over. So you're in the calculation tab, the first one, and the second one, and then the third one is additional, and then the fourth one is notes. So take a look on the additional tab and see that you've got a couple of objects that actually extend toward the left of that. So this is a really convenient way to make like a little guide so that everything aligns exactly. So now go to browse mode after you've made those changes. And notice that as you click through your tabs, and just go to quotes and additional and notes, it should feel a little bit better to have everything kind of aligned in a nice way. I don't know. I'm not sure if you guys are fully getting that, but a lot of these small concepts add up to making a very pleasing experience for the users who are using the database. So consistent alignment, areas of the screen that are dedicated to only one type of thing. We haven't really talked about navigation, but that's coming. So we're going to be building navigation scripts and methods. Looks like your portal is gone here somehow. Faith, I don't know what happened. On your second tab, there's no portal there. The quotes.
Yeah,
Maybe the
mine
one that I
doesn't have
copied
it
you.
either.
Might have been just.
I think it might have been when you duplicated the layout, maybe it wasn't there, but you can just, you can click back on that second one, go to the portal tool on top. One more, yeah. Draw a box down below that. Yeah, that's, yeah, you're not gonna like that. Click and let it go, and then click cancel. And then you wanna draw it below your labels, there you go. Yep, like that. And then choose see quotes, I think. Scroll up. See quote. Click OK. That will then ask you what fields you want. Double click quote date, material cost, or calc labor, calc material, something like that. Oh, and then location. Oh, and then the order is wrong, so change the location. Yeah. Then if you click OK, you should be good to go. All right. So yeah, gathering items to a certain area, having the right amount of white space, not using too many colors or types of objects, having everything within a theme and a style, really taking a look at your user's environment in terms of font size and like contrast and things like that. So being sensitive to people's needs if they can't see well, like me, for example, right now. So I zoom my screen in, and while my eyes are getting better. Those are all things that are going to be really important in your careers as database developers. So yeah, we'll keep kind of sculpting on that and kind of revisiting these themes a little bit. This is really nice. I really like the look of this. We just have a couple minutes left, and I'll show you a couple of other tricks on that portal. Go back to that second one that you're working on because I'm really liking watching you work on that. Click on the portal once, and then make it a little bit wider. Yep. Double click in the middle of it, and I'm going to show you a couple of other things we haven't really talked about. We looked very, very briefly at sort. So click sort portal records, the checkbox at the top, and then double click quote date. And then click it once and then choose descending. Double click this again, and there's another thing I want to show you, which is vertical scrolling. Click that box for allow vertical scrolling, and then leave it to always. And then notice we have a couple of other things too. We have filtering, which we're not going to get to yet, but it's pretty powerful. If you click filter, just click on that specify button for filter though, because I want you to see what that is. That is your friend, the calculation dialog. So FileMaker allows you to filter records, not at the relationship level, but on a given layout in a given portal. So if a certain condition is true, like I only want to see quotes within the last year, anything older than that, I don't really care about. For example, you can just put a simple calculation in to only show certain things. Go ahead and cancel for now. What I wanted you to show was that scroll bar thing, because that's actually really important on a portal that's going to have more records than fit, right? So you're showing 4, but if there are more than 4, you want the ability for the user to be able to scroll and see the other ones. By the way, double click on your portal and just make it 6 lines. So the number of rows, change it to 6 rather than 4. Okay, now go to browse mode. And then, yeah, of course, we have a record with no quote. So skip through your records and see, I think some of the very, very first ones, like go to record 1. There you go, that has 2. So yeah, this is kind of how you control that. We're at time. I'll stick around to answer questions if you guys have any. Tomorrow, scripting, so much fun. Faith, that was really fun. I'm really glad that we went through that layout stuff.
Yeah,
And yeah,
helps with the learning process too.
I think you've clearly played with some of those things before because you seem pretty familiar with it.
I just, not through FileMaker, it's just like knowing some stuff from CSS.
Oh yeah,
It kind of looks similar, so it's
Yeah.
like, yeah.
that's good. I was really hoping that familiarity would be there because it certainly should be.
But yeah, no, some of the stuff that you can do in here, it's like would take me an hour to do on CSS, just like
Yeah,
like making
right.
something like with less transparent and then layering it. I'm like, that takes so much time, like hard coding.
Oh, totally. Yeah, FileMaker's tools and it's very graphical way
Yeah.
of moving things around. You know, getting familiar and getting some skill with those. They're not hard, but kind of knowing how to guide through. So yeah, we talked a lot about like what we're trying to get to, that simplicity and balance and you know, the columns and the white space and all that stuff. Design, in a word.
Yeah, I'll take time just to learn how to just use the interface, but yeah, it's really, it's really nice.
Yeah, good. Okay, I'll stick around, like I said, for questions. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording now. And I don't know if I posted the thing to YouTube, but I'll get both of them posted today. So the yesterday's and today's.
I was just going to ask that question.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
same.
downloaded it, but I think I haven't uploaded it yet.
Okay.